urban gas drilling has increased dramatically in Fort Worth over the past few years. What is your view of the role of the city in assuring citizens' health and safety while accessing the gas resources? Would you suggest any changes to the gas drilling ordinance that was adopted in 2008? Kathy, I'll begin with you.
Well, urban gas drilling is in fact a very serious issue, and it's one that I think needs to be discussed, and I think it is the obligation of the City Council and the Mayor to protect the health and safety of the citizens first and foremost. I would indeed suggest some improvements to the ordinance. In fact, there are 3 things that I would suggest. We now know that there might be serious compromising of our air and water quality. But to make sure that we have accurate data, I would suggest that we have ongoing testing to see that we have clean air and clean water. And if there are compromises, that we build into our ordinance the types of improvement systems like green completion, vapor recovery, et cetera, to make sure that that air and water is clean. I would advocate the removal of waivers. We have protected uses, and I think we should not allow any waivers to those protected uses. And then I would actually advocate that we create a master pipeline survey so that we know, in fact, where those pipelines are going.
You know, as the governmental entity closest to the people, the city government of Fort Worth has an absolute obligation to protect the health, safety, and welfare of its citizens, and we must never, ever, ever compromise our health and safety in favor of economic gain. And I don't care whose economic gain it is, whether it's my neighborhoods or your neighborhoods or some third parties. We can make a lot of changes in our drilling ordinance, and we should make a lot of changes in order to institute safety measures. The problem, however, is that we need to change our attitude toward that ordinance, because it doesn't do any good to have an ordinance if we're not going to enforce it. And so whatever safety measures that we deem to be appropriate in the ordinance, vapor recovery, membrane filtration, no bleed valves on pipelines, that type of thing, whatever the appropriate setback is, we need to make absolutely sure that that ordinance is enforced, and that the attitude of the council is that the enforcement of the ordinance is top priority because it protects the health, safety, and welfare of the citizens.
I think we all agree health and safety is a zero tolerance issue. It must be safe. Urban drilling is a fairly new phenomena. They've been drilling essentially in your backyard or next to your neighbor only for about 8 years. Was it all done right to start out with? Probably not. We need to revisit where we've been and where we're going. We need to work with you in your neighborhoods to keep your neighborhoods safe and strong. But there is no doubt about it. Urban drilling is here to stay. It is a huge economic engine, from the taxes that they pay, the sales tax they bring in. We can do this safely, folks, and we must do it safely to keep you, your children, and your grandchildren safe.
I think the ordinances need to be reassessed, if for no other reason, so that you, the individuals out there, have sound peace of mind that something is being done that's very productive. I think a lot of people feel that the council rushed into this without thinking about the ramifications. They saw the dollar signs, but they didn't see the end result. So that has to be done so that the people out there who have gas lines in their backyard, who are worried about air pollution, air quality, soil quality, know that the council actually cares. This can be a tremendous economic engine for Fort Worth. It has kept us out of the bulk of the recession so far. But as Dan said, economic prosperity should never come at the expense of our own health and safety. One thing that I would advocate is that the reports that seem to be coming out come out at rather arbitrary times. And I think that if people saw them at more regular intervals, if the city website had an interactive thing where you could click on it and see the air quality reports in real time, they'd feel safer about this. Because right now it feels like there's a lot of obfuscation, a lot of misinformation out there about what's really going on.
Well, I have a zero tolerance policy for 2 things. One is gangs in your neighborhoods, and the other one is any health and safety issue. That means public safety, health. The issue of the gas ordinance is a work in progress. We started this right at the end of my tenure on the council, and we didn't have a lot to work with, and I think everybody knew that as the industry grew in Fort Worth, that this ordinance would have to be looked at and revived. and revised. There's no question about it. I think, though, my concern has always been talking to the neighborhoods about this. I'm not interested in sitting up there and telling people what you should be doing in your neighborhood. I'm more interested in you telling me what you want done in your neighborhood. And I think that that's something that may not have happened in the process so far. So after we read and hear what the air quality study says in June, I think we'll have a lot better information to work with at that point.